The Alternative Investment Fund Managers Directive 2011 EU is a European Union directive that entered into force on July 22, 2013. The directive regulates EU fund managers that manage alternative investment funds, fund managers that manage AIFs established in the EU, and fund managers that market the units or shares of an AIF in the EU. Hedge funds and private equity funds and their investment managers have not been subject to the same rules to protect the investing public as mutual and pension funds and their managers. In general, the lack of financial regulation is seen by some to have contributed to the severity of the global financial crisis. The directive was aimed at redressing this perceived regulatory gap. The directive was approved by the European Parliament and Council of the European Union on June 8, 2011 and published in the EU Official Journal on July 1, 2011. The directive is following the Lamfalussy process and has so far been supplemented by 3 Level 2 regulations, Commission Delegated Regulation No. 231/2013 on exemptions, general operating conditions, depositories, leverage, transparency and supervision. Commission Implementing Regulation No. 447/2013 on opt-in AIFMs. Commission Implementing Regulation No. 448/2013 on the procedure for establishing the member state of reference for non-EU fund managers. The European Securities and Markets Authority has also issued a number of guidelines to national competent authorities including on key concepts of AIFMD and remuneration. The directive needed to be written into national statute books by July 22, 2013 and, subject to the transitional periods, be brought into effect from this date. As of October 1, 2013, 16 EU member states had not yet transposed the directive including Belgium, Finland, Greece, Italy, Poland, Portugal and Spain. Overview: the key changes being introduced by AIFMD are: AIFMs established within the EU will need authorization by July 22, 2013. EU AIFMs will be subject to detailed rules on delegation, transparency, conduct of business, remuneration, leverage and reporting. EU AIFMs will be required to appoint an independent custodian for each AIF which they manage. EU AIFMs will be required to have independent risk management and valuation functions. EU AIFMs authorized under the AIFMD will be granted a passport to either manage AIFs in other EU member states or market units or shares in AIFs to professional investors. Non-EU AIFMs marketing AIFs within the EU will be required to comply with disclosure requirements to both investors and EU regulators. EU AIFMs and certain non-EU AIFMs that invest in private equity will be subject to certain asset stripping rules and notification and disclosure rules. From 2015, non-EU AIFMs may acquire a passport to market units or shares in AIFs within the EU but will require authorization within the EU. From 2019, the European Commission could potentially end the national placement regime of units or shares in AIFs across the EU. Transposition in Malta. On June 27, 2013, Malta became the first EU member state to complete the transposition of the requirements of the directive into national law. The Maltese legislator and the Malta Financial Services Authority transposed the requirements of the directive by means of a series of regulations issued under the Investment Services Act and a number of new MFSA rulebooks. Controversies. According to a study conducted by Deloitte, most of the UK-based asset managers think that the AIFM directive could reduce the competitiveness of the EU's alternative investment funds industry because of the compliance the regulations impose on the industry. In addition, these managers from the hedge fund, private equity and real estate sectors believe that the directive will reduce the number of non-EU managers operating within the EU. See also, Markets in Financial Instruments Directive 2004 EC, Undertakings for Collective Investment in Transferable Securities Directives 2001 EC and 2001 EC, Notes. External links, EU's main page on alternative investments, EU's consultation document, ZEPIDA, R. To EU, or not to EU, that is the AIFMD question, Journal of International Banking Law and Regulation, Volume 29, Issue 2, pages 82 to 102.